Welcome back to WBTV News on Bounce. 9 minutes now after 8 o'clock. Paul Durso is joining us from Durso Capital Management. A lot of families right now getting ready to send their kids off to college, and you think it's one thing to pay for the college education, but you're going to need money for a lot more things. What do you want to talk about? What is important with parents right now?
Well, I think educating your children in a couple different areas would be a really good first step, and I think the first one would be budgeting.
Budgeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing to talk about. Nobody likes to budget, but it's the backbone of a great financial plan. And if you can learn it early, especially in college or leading into college, it could set a foundation that could last a lifetime.
What about checkings and those savings accounts? What do you do for college students in those cases?
Well, a checking and savings accounts is a great first step for a little bit of financial freedom. Now, the one thing that I love about a checking account is you can get those debit cards. And a debit card is a great accountability measure because it's difficult to overspend. So by doing that and setting a great budget, you can stay on track, especially in college when it's so easy to get out of bounds a little bit.
I actually had to write the checks, and so you got to one point and you knew you couldn't write anymore because you were out of checks and you weren't going to get any. But obviously, like you say, the way it is now, you've got debit cards. What about credit cards? That's got to be kind of touchy.
Well, credit cards is probably the most exciting step in financial freedom, but it also requires the most responsibility. So I would caution students to not just, have you ever been to a football game, college football game, and you see those booths that they're giving away free stuff? Stay away from that. You got to be very careful. I mean, most college students are very good at surfing the web. Use that power to find the best, cheapest credit card with the most perks. But you have to have the most responsibility because there's a lot of freedom with credit cards. You can get yourself into trouble real quick.
Well, then how do you discipline yourself with a credit card? Like you say, with a debit card, the discipline's sort of built in, but with a credit card, not so much.
Well, leave it at home. Don't take it. Leave it in your dorm room. Take it on trips and things like that where there can be some things where you might need a little extra money, but you have to stay within the constraints of a budget. That's the backbone of a great financial plan.
Okay, that financial plan's got to include a student loan for a lot of folks right now, and something you hear students talk about, I'm still paying that and it's 10 years out. What do you say about that?
Well, one of the best things you can teach a student early is discipline. So when it comes to student loans that can have deferrals, meaning you don't have any payments until you're done with college, a great discipline would be to make some payments on that accrued interest. Begin paying that before you get out of college. Again, we're trying to create habits that can last into your career and throughout the rest of your life.
How good would it be if you could come through college, then get out of college and start thinking right that first day, now I need to start getting ready for retirement?
Well, Albert Einstein said, the eighth wonder of the world is compounding interest. And I tell you what, for a college student, they have nothing but time, hopefully, for the rest of their life. So that compounding interest effect can last, or can have a huge impact over the rest of their life. So pay attention to your retirement plans. If you have a 401k match, you just need to start early. And it can compound huge over the rest of your life.
Even with just a little bit. Even just starting and having that discipline with a little bit ends up being a lot, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Still does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Paul Durso from Durso Capital Management. Glad to have him joining us. Some good advice for college students and for their families getting ready to take that big step and step towards financial independence as well. Stay tuned. More news coming up on WBTV News on Bounce.